I kind of feel like a good score is like 40% of a film. Jen and I had built a story around Anna where there was not a lot of dialogue going on, and it was really about characters, Anna and Henry, that didn't relate to each other very well and didn't know how to talk. There were a lot of scenes that I was building that I knew had to be like silent movie scenes. So I knew that the music would be really instrumental, no pun intended, in creating a complete atmosphere for the story. And I knew that I didn't want anything synthesized or artificial sounding. Using real instruments would make a tremendous difference in how the film would feel and sound, even though it was a student piece.
For a student project, you're going to go write a score for this thing? He's like, yeah, it's going to be great.
So I hired my friend Joe Prusch to do the score. Joe and I had worked together in several bands before. He plays viola, and he played in my band for a while. But he was not left with a lot of time. He wound up with severe technical constraints, and he was just really busy. So by the time we went to record the score, he really only had about half the material that I was looking for. What we recorded was tremendous, but I walked away incredibly discouraged and overwhelmed, and not really sure how I was going to make the film work.
So play it non-vibrato, all those A's at the end.
And so I wound up literally taking all of the raw elements from the score recording and piecing them together and creating musical suites out of things that were never intended to go together. Even on the very early screenings of Red Ink, people really walked away feeling impressed and overwhelmed by the score. And they knew that the score was such a huge part of the film. I had met Robby Aceto through another film that I was editing, a documentary called Saved by Deportation, and he had done the score for that. And I had told him about Red Ink and about the upcoming newer projects, and he was excited to do it. I had given Robby the assignment of taking on Catherine's story, which had perhaps the most subtle and intricate character work going on. He's an amazing composer and has an incredible sense of performance subtlety that he weaves into this sound and to the music so seamlessly.
I love Robby Aceto's score. I love ambient music and I love electronic sound. Some of the ambient sounds that he put into that score, they just kind of floor me every time, and that twangy guitar, the electric guitar.
Once I finished the edit for Justin's story, I had asked Mer Boel to do the score, but she had never written a score for film before.
Oh, he's great because he gives a lot of feedback and you know where you're at. And since I was such a beginner, which I confessed right away to him, it helped me a lot to get his take on how the music should work.
And so as she was writing cues for the film, she would send MIDI versions of them to me by email, and I would basically critique them by email, and then she would go back and rewrite them.
Oftentimes I think I was overwriting. I can tell the whole story in the music. In my mind, that's what I'm doing. But for film, that's not what's needed, because for film, the story's being told on the screen. So for me, this was a whole big adjustment to do, and Chris helped an awful lot with that.
But it was a lot of hard work on her part and on my part. The amount of emails that went back and forth between the two of us was tremendous.
The other aspect that was great about working with Chris was that he is a musician himself. So many times how we were able to communicate back and forth, we could talk music language, you know. He could say, well, I'm ending on a D flat chord here, so we want to pick up on that. Or maybe it shouldn't be quite so minor. Or how about if you go up a third here? And I don't know that any of that would be possible with someone who was not familiar with music. They would be trying to describe it to me in other terms.
Finally, we were happy with the score, and we recorded it in a church.
I had basically my group Water Bear play. The recording session went really well. It was really great. It was great people playing. At one point, Chris had to come and conduct. He'd heard the music, he knew the music really, really well. So when we failed to execute the music properly, he was able to say, well, wait a minute, we better get another take.
It was hard, but we got a great score, and she's very proud of it, and I'm glad that she's proud of it too, because I am.